Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer. Warhammer, the Age of Sigmar. That's right. Here we are. Boy, what a week. I would just like to start off by saying we were exactly right last week, so thank you very much. That was the last week of not knowing anything. I went away for the weekend to play a marathon D&D game. In the car on Friday morning, it started, and boy, it hasn't stopped since. And this is going to be a special show completely dedicated to the Age of Sigmar rumors and what we've seen and what we want and all of that. So tuck in, get ready as we break it down. We are going to go beat by beat as much as we can squeeze in this hour and a half. So let me first introduce my esteemed associates here. Joining me as always is my co-host Claire Forlani. How you doing, Tom?
Hello, friends. This is going to be exciting.
Absolutely. Also joining us is William Page. How you doing, Will?
Doing great.
You know, you have, as a slight quick aside, do you know how long it took me to figure out what you were saying when you start your battle reports? I just want you to say that. You're saying creative name to stand out here,
Yeah.
right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, before the Google transformation of YouTube, I was going over that name. I was using that name.
Yes. But there you go. Mystery solved for all of our viewers who might not know. By the way, as always, I will include a link to William's channel. If you're not already subscribed to William, what are you doing? Stop being stupid. Subscribe to William immediately. Like, William does an amazing thing every week called Warhammer Rap, which is absolutely fantastic. And now by saying that, I'm putting more pressure on you to do it. But it really is fantastic and an unbelievable service to the community. I cannot imagine how much time that takes you.
I don't know. It was somebody else's idea. I liked it, and it was Once Bitten's idea. I liked it, and I tried to do what I could.
All right. Well, I certainly know I love it every week, and I have watched videos off of every single one you've done that I didn't otherwise know about. So there you go. So, preamble out of the way, folks. Let's just get right into it. I mean, why even wait around? Age of Sigmar. So, what's happening? All right. Well, let's start with some timeline. Just some timeline paperwork. As I said, everything started Friday morning. Friday morning, I was sitting down at the Hofbrau house to have myself some nice schnitzel, and pictures of the new fig started rolling in, which of course elicited the initial controversy of are they Space Marines or are they sweet fantasy dudes? So then we kind of moved on. We started to get some leaks. Started to see the box, the contents, saw the model itself, saw how it snap fit together. Then we started seeing maybe a little bit of the White Dwarf, saw some pictures, some bent pages, kind of rules, and then we got the actual rules, then we got the War Scrolls, and then the world exploded because there were no points on any of these things, and everybody lost their minds. I don't know what Kim Kardashian was talking about. She didn't break the internet. Releasing just the War Scrolls and not knowing how to build army composition, that broke the internet. People lost their minds. And then we saw the warband stuff today, and now we find ourselves in the middle of some rumors about what is coming next. So that is our quick timeline of what brings us to today. So let's just start with this real quick. Just get a little temperature check for the two of you. How was this roller coaster ride of the weekend? I'd like to know your general feelings on how you experienced this. Go ahead, William. You're first.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure.
No,
I was for the longest time I was prepping myself for change because my initial reaction to change is to think if it's not broke, don't fix it. But this is a business, so it needs to change so they can make some money. So I was just trying to mentally prepare myself, even though I didn't like it at first. And then as things were coming out, I liked it all the way up until I found out there was no points. And that was something I had to really come to terms with. But the more I listen to other people, try to justify the mission objectives that we'll get into later, I started to maybe understand. I think a lot of people overestimate the mission objectives right now, but I'm starting to jump on the bandwagon.
All right, I like it. That's good. That's not bad. All right, Tom, what about yourself?
I mean, I was in a very similar situation. I was fairly negative, and then I saw those models, and I was like, "Damn, those things are beautiful." I mean, honestly, like I know that a lot of people are poo-pooing the Sigmar, the Sigmarine stuff, and then but I was like, "Man, those things look beautiful." Like this is what I've been wanting. It's just something like heavily armored holy warrior stuff, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna go great." I'm sitting here, mind is flashing through like. Toughest Girls of the Galaxy 2 Kickstarter and those awesome like nuns, and I was like, man, this is gonna be just like it just looks so good. And then then I got to thinking about it. Started thinking about like the scale, and I'm like, oh, is scale creep? Like, did they actually do scale creep? Which the reality is that these aren't just dudes in armor. Like these are spirit empowered like huge armor suits. So these are like it's not just like dude, so it's not true scale creep. So that was a relief, but it was kind of up and down, and the more, like, again, the points thing was a huge hit for me, until I, like, went line by line, read through all the rules, started chewing on it, and realizing that this game may be as tactical, and I don't think it's going to be, quote-unquote, like, as broken as we think it is, and we'll talk about that later. Even with no points, and I mean that very honestly. I think that the game may... the balance may be found in ways that I don't think people are thinking about.
I like it. All right, so you mentioned the models, Tom, and I think maybe that's where we should start. Okay, so let's start with some pictures. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
All right. So here's what I'm going to use these pictures. I'm going to actually use the War Scrolls because I think they let you look at each one individually well. So let me lock on me and then share up. Okay. So can everybody see this okay?
Oops. Yeah, I can see it fine.
Okay. Hopefully that's big enough for everybody. Let's do this. We'll zoom a little bit. There we go. Very nice. Okay. So here we got the Blood Warriors in the box set, these corn dudes. Clearly like some Chaos Warriors. Now William, you're a Chaos player. You have a nice combined army. What did you think of these dudes when you saw them?
Man, I love them so much. I like the new aesthetics of the models. It makes me sad that I spent money and painting up all the warriors I did already, but I'm going to end up buying more Chaos Warriors and painting them up orange painfully.
Absolutely. Yes, more Pyre Legion warriors here. I gotta agree with you. These are some BA Chaos Warriors, and they look like Chaos Warriors to me. Like I don't see anything about this that is a tremendous divergence from the current aesthetic. If you mean these guys are ridiculous and over the top, yeah, it's Warhammer, folks. Like, do I need to remind people of like 4th and 5th edition 40K Noise Marines, like dudes with giant speakers on their back that were running around shooting guitar riffs at people? Like, this company has a history of rule of cooling it pretty hard. So yeah, they're now with 20% spikier, but to me they look like Chaos Warriors. If I didn't see, if you cover up that text and just showed me a picture and said, who are these guys? I would say those are Chaos Warriors. So yeah.
And I just want to actually point out that they actually look really close to the Chaos Warriors. So if anybody ever played Warhammer Age of Reckoning, the first dungeon, the Ruin set, I think it was the Ruin set, where you get the dungeon where you got the Ruin set. It was the corn everything dungeon that everybody skipped over and nobody ever did. The art direction of these guys looks very close to those warriors that were strewn throughout that dungeon.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to the good guys side of the base troops there, the Liberators. So these are the big dudes you're talking about. These guys are on 40 mils and 40 mil rounds, and these are. So I saw a nice size comparison, and these guys are like a little bit not as big as ogres, like current ogres, basically.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people complain that the aesthetic's totally different between these and like the old Empire, or the old humans and stuff like that. And like, Yeah. This is a different army. If you put high elves standing next to ogres, they're going to look different.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see the Space Marine look of them, but I've always wanted good guys that could kick Chaos's butt without like sacrificing 50 people. So, and these guys are definitely it. So I mean, I do like them. They still don't look terribly sci-fi-ish. So I don't know. You know what it is? I think if the Blood Angels that existed when they brought them out, like maybe 2 years ago, I think if they never made those models, I think they would be a little bit more acceptable.
Yeah. There's definitely. I think it's partially something like take off the death mask, right? It's funny because I don't think I'd have it in this slide reel. If I do, I'll flip through real quick and try to take a look. But I really think those death masks are what's doing it, because when you metal out the whole face, right, it suddenly makes it look so much more like a full contained like power armor guy, right?
Yeah.
The fact that they don't have like cloaks or something like that. But I mean, they've still got scale mail in between their legs. It still looks like armor to me, not powered armor. There's not a gun. There's not cables. Yes, they are huge, big, armored guys.
I think, but I mean, it's the arms, really. I think, especially that guy that's holding up the hammer. If you look on the inside, it kind of does look like power armor. It's a little, it's built up the same way.
Well,
this part.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And what I would say also is that, like, so in the hypothetical world where Warhammer, where Games Workshop is wanting to link their IPs, there's been said multiple times that Sigmar is the Emperor, and there's been these hypotheses and stuff like this, or this is Warhammer 20K. Maybe. Honestly, maybe, and
sure.
maybe that aesthetic that we see later is finding its origins here.
I would also just say this. From a business perspective, it makes sense to have an army in fantasy that is aesthetically reminiscent of your most popular selling product, right? Because it could make several 40K players go, oh, well, maybe I'll give this new game a chance because I like this aesthetic already. Hey, look, there's a thing that I can get into over here too. It doesn't mean that this is the aesthetic for every single army that comes out. As we said, Chaos still look like Chaos. I am super excited for what the elves are going to look like when they get some kind of new aesthetic, like new elf groups and warbands. I want to see some crazy stuff. They could look sweet.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yes, I know we've got two elf players here in the hangout. I'm sure you're all very sensitive, but I say bring on the. In this case, I do want it to go to 40K, as I don't want them to be power armor stuff, but I want them to call back to the old 40K. They had different little groupings of them, and that's bad because I can't remember a single name of what I'm talking about, but that's all right, whatever. Yes, they're certainly Space Marine inspired, but I think they're also inspired by like a lot of other things. I see many other elements in this design, and I think these are a litmus test thing, right? It's like you look at them, you see 40K, and it makes you happy, or you see some shadows of 40K and it makes you sad. It's okay, it's just one faction. I don't think you're required to like every faction in the game, right? I personally hate the look of many armies in 8th edition. I think they look like garbage. That's okay. There are also several that I absolutely love. Okay. Right? I mean, do you love the look of every single army right now in 8th edition fantasy? Anybody?
Yeah, I do.
Everyone?
Yeah, I was trying to think when you were saying that. I was trying to think of something I didn't like, but there's really... I mean, there's old models I wish would get replaced, but as far as like the theme of them as the aesthetic, I like them all.
All right, you're a good man. Hey, good for you.
No,
even I can't like them all.
Like, I don't even like most of my orcs and goblins army, which is why I've created this all goblin spider army. Is because I don't like the aesthetic of most of my army.
And that's one you actually chose to play. Forget about the other ones.
Sure.
Right. All right, good enough. Let's keep moving. So here we've got the Lord guy on his Dracoth. Oh man, I'm excited about this guy. He's on like a dragon cat.
Vince, do you want to throw out your theory?
Yeah, somebody made a rumor that this guy. So like part of the story is that Sigmar grabbed people out of the old world and has been like reconstituting them as his warriors. And so part of the story is that this guy is some special character from the old world, okay? And like that he is really somebody, but we don't know who he is. And I said, if that's the case, at that time I said, but I think there's a different story to it now, Tom, so my theory is already wrong, but I'll say it anyways. The thing he's on looks a lot like the Mortark's kitty cat dragons, right? So like Manfred, Nephrata, and Archon, right? It has the same shape as their kitty cat dragons. But from what I understand, this guy is supposed to be from the original, he's a sub-creature of the dragon that Sigmar made friends with. We'll talk about that later in the fluff section. But I still want to know who this dude is, special character-wise. I think he's badass looking. I love him. What about the two of you? Any opinions on our Order Lord here?
What I would say is this. I look at that model, and I say, it's probably a $43 model. Like, honestly, for Games Workshop. Like, that's probably in the, like, kitty cat, Manicore, like, in that, like, what is it, $48, $46 retail price range. And then it just reminds me at how awesome this box set is price-wise.
Sure.
At the 20% discount, that you're getting 47 minis for basically 100. It's a 125 is the retail of the box, they said. So $100 for 47 minis, including like 2 big ones like this and all of your foot troops and everything. Like, GW is trying to sell some boxes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think he looks amazing. It's something that's not appealing to me right now. I mean, I'm not into, like, I want the Super Warriors as far as story-wise line, but it's not something I want to play. When I first got into Games Workshop stuff, I was appealed to Imperial Guard. So I do like the idea of the common man fighting against the horrors and evils and technological advances that he has to face. But, this is cool too. It's just something I probably wouldn't play. It would probably, like, if I were to collect all the armies, this would probably be on the lower end of the armies I'd start collecting.
That's fair. And I think that's exactly why people should take hope. It's not like this is going to be your only human thing going around the world, not even counting the fact that we're getting War Scrolls for every existing model they've made in 8th edition. But I think that this is, like, just as you said, in 40K, there you have your superhumans, which are your Space Marines, right? And you have your Imperial Guard. And I was an Imperial Guard player too, Will. I had all my foot sloggers shooting flashlights at monsters, right? And that is an appealing thing, right? Like the guys who don't have the tech and don't have the strength or speed or toughness, they just have to rely on grit to get it done.
Or I just like the idea of, like, Independence Day, where you have the modern Air Force going against spaceships and winning.
Absolutely. Well, they did have Will Smith, which,
Yeah,
you can't underestimate that. If maybe Lord Celestin is really Will Smith in disguise. If he is, then Chaos is in trouble. Okay. So, moving on. We got our clearly our BSB guy here. Again, just absolutely beautiful model. I don't want to waste too much time on all these, but that skeleton in his standard, like that, I saw a close-up of that, and the detail level on that is just mind-blowing.
It's just so fantastic. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's definitely the best model out of all of them.
It's pretty awesome.
Yep.
And then my personal favorite, these beautiful little guys. I love these little dudes flying through the air on their scrolls with their Flash Gordon wings.
Did they fly in from Mantica?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they got the. I almost feel like they had to do the metalish Archangel wings just so everybody didn't immediately call them the Elo High out of Mantic, right? Which I think is fair. Mantic built its entire world off of stealing from Games Workshop in the best way possible. That's not a dig on Mantic. Good companies borrow, great companies steal. But then GW is going to borrow right back.
No, the best part about this was when these images broke on Friday. I don't know if you guys know this or not. When these images broke on Friday, Mantica put up the Elohoi and asked for a caption contest. and the one that won, yeah, obviously like they were aware, but they were trying to be classy about it, and so they just put up the image of the Illinois and asked for a caption, and the top one was, and in today's news, Mantico wins IP battle.
That's funny. You like the flying guys, Will? What's your thought on them?
Sorry, I have jets overhead, so I missed whatever he was saying. When I first saw these, I thought, wow, these are very retro-looking, and I hated them immediately. I was like, what in the world? But as we're getting these new pictures, I am very impressed. Just kind of, to me, this is kind of original of GW, and I don't know, it's really amazing. So.
Yeah, you can definitely see shades of a lot of things in there, but I love them as a concept. I think they're awesome. I think I might convert them and put some feathered wings on them and go full Flash Gordon. I mean, why not? Like that's, I'll paint them gold. I'll put feathered wings on them and paint them gold. We'll just go full on Flash Gordon.
They're very like Diablo Angel-esque.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
This is what's really getting me pumped about the new game is just the ideas that they're coming out with. It's just so impressive.
They are definitely reinventing. I mean, the one thing we've got to say about this is not a timid move, right? Like this has boldness written all over it. This is complete reinvention. Like love it or hate it, I understand. I'm not trying to tell you should like it just because it's a bold move. You shouldn't. Lots of companies make dumb bold moves.
Yeah.
I am just saying it is in fact a bold move, and you gotta respect their moxie on this. Like if nothing else, you can hate it, but respect it.
And if I was a 40K player, I would be getting a little bit uncomfortable right now. Because if this is successful, this may be the direction of your game.
If I was a 40K player, I would be sleeping perfectly well at night. For any 40K, go ahead, Will.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
But I was going to say, if I would get back into 40K, if this is successful, I will get back into 40K, hoping that they would go in this direction. I watched a 40K game today because I still do that occasionally, and the game is ridiculous. Like somebody was playing something they called the Super Friends list, and it was so stupid. Like they would move 12 inches. They would cast this spell that would let them move 12 inches, and they would cast this spell that said you can only hit me on 6s. It wasn't tactical at all. It was ridiculous. And people would spend the hour and a half to play this game. And I don't know, this new system looks like it would break that kind of ridiculous building of lists. I don't know. It's just
sure.
I'm excited.
Absolutely. I mean, here's what I'll say. The reason I don't think the 40K players have anything to worry about is the following. 40K outsells fantasy by 4-1 by most people's estimates. Probably something in that neighborhood. This product was dying financially.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't, you wouldn't see this right now. Companies don't reinvent when they don't have to. Because if you're just getting checks, you do nothing. You keep getting checks. That's how it works. And so they had to do a bold move with fantasy. 40K is successful. It works. And the reality is the worst thing they would do with 40K is make it look like this. I don't care how good this is. Let's say this is the best thing ever. Okay, this is amazing. They would still be stupid to make 40K like this. Because then you're competing against yourself. Like what they want is what GW wants is two independent but somewhat related aesthetically and thematic products that either side can look at and go, yes, I would like to buy an army of that game. The second they become the same game in any way, it like all the way up to and including a Warlords thing, they start eating their own player base.
Okay, that was my question to you. How, if it was so successful, why not make fantasy exactly like 40K rules-wise? Like, why make this totally different system?
Yeah, because you'd rob your own base.
Okay.
Like, consider this: is Budweiser a really good beer? I don't know. Probably not, right? Most people say Budweiser is a crap beer, but it is like the #1 selling beer in America, right? Budweiser doesn't make Budweiser 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's like a second Budweiser that tastes exactly like Budweiser. They make Bud Light Lime, which probably tastes like, sweaty socks strained through a 4-day-old coffee filter that got near a lime. But it doesn't matter. The point is that when you've already got one successful product, you don't make a second one that's the same thing. That's not how you do. That's not how business works. So, that's the models. So let's talk about let's just do a little bit more on models. We covered like that's enough of the pictures, but let's say this. One, are these models a good starter set? General thoughts, yes, no. William, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. These are amazing, and it makes me excited and fearful about my elves. I love my elves. I want to think that they're just going to keep the aesthetics of the most recently released elves, like the dark shards and everything. But that's probably going to change, and I'm excited about that.
All right, fair enough. Tom, what about yourself? As a starter set, is this a good selection of minis?
I mean, I think they knocked it out of the park, honestly. Like, because again, I look at the value that's sitting in this box, and it's just like it is just astronomical.
Sure.
That means that you're forking out $50 for these forces, for each one, and I just like I think the models are fantastically detailed. No matter what you think about the Sigmarines, like they're fantastically detailed. That standard bearer is like it is jaw dropping.
Yeah. I mean, you're paying cheaper than Bones prices per mini for something that is sculpted as truly one of the best sculpts in the industry.
No, it's not as cheap as Bones. Bones are sub $1 a mini.
Do you think they're going to make a profit? I mean, is this like a profit thing that's going to happen, or is this a gamble? We're going to bite it just to get people excited.
I'm sure this runs as close to zero profit as anything Games Workshop does.
Right? Yep.
Because they don't need to make money on this; they need to get you hooked. It's the same tactics as any good drug dealer, right? Like you always take a loss getting them hooked. All right. So you kind of touched on it already, but here's my final question on models. All right. Oh, one more. Wait, I want to make one more quick note. The only other quick note on the models that we saw from the pictures is, yay, we can all stop with the bases. So that's fine. Whatever now. Like, do whatever. Specifically stated in there. No bases don't matter. Not a thing. We'll talk about it more with rules. But hey, whatever base you want, knock yourself out. They even point out like dodecahedral bases or whatever in there as saying if that's what you want, knock yourself out, which I thought was hilarious. Because I have a couple of those. So what do you hope? There's a lot more armies and figs and stuff to be released, right? All signs say it's going to rain. It's done about to rain, son. That's what I'm hearing.
Rumor had it, by the way, that it was that we'll see Talent finally in October.
And it's straight fantasy until then.
Straight fantasy until October.
There's a lot of fantasy. That's like 15 weeks of fantasy. So, gentlemen, what do you want to see out of the releases that come from an army you like? Is there a particular thing you'd like to see get models that didn't before? I mean, like with these small forces, you can do these small, smaller-ish forces. They can afford to do a lot more armies. Is there a hope you have for an army? Will, you kind of touched on this already for your elves, but are there other things you'd like to see? Cooler models, aesthetics that you hope get touched, don't touch, things you'd like to stay more classic? Answer it however you like. Go ahead, Will. You get to go first.
Well, so you notice on the cards they have lots of keywords. I hope this opens up to a lot of what they're doing in 40K, which is having these smaller factions and formations you take. I hope that becomes a key part of the game. Because I've been buying tons of 40K stuff with the idea that I'm going to put it together. I have not made one single step besides buying it because I do love the idea of these fluffy formations that get special rules to make them even more viable when you play them. And I really hope that's what happens in fantasy. I would love to play whatever the new version of the Cult of Cain might be.
Oh my God! You see, you're talking my language, buddy. Magic words right there. Yes.
Yep. That's yeah. I mean, like what I would say is this, and I think this speaks right into it. I don't know that I would say Cult of Cain, but I think the Dark Elf Slanesh overlap. Like I think there's some money there, led by Marathi. Like that's gonna happen. You're gonna have some corrupted Marathi come back on the scene, leading this this coven of sorceresses and witch elves and like mutated witch elf daemonettes. That's happening.
You don't think her hot soul has been eaten by Slanesh?
Oh no. No.
No way. She is a survivor. Like She died off camera, which means she didn't die. She's around somewhere.
As a side note, let me just say something real quick. In the lore, Tyrion has been saved. He's one of the gods that was made. Yeah. And one of the things that I like, you just saying that it dawned on me. He led an assault against Sigmar's will against Slaanesh. And it doesn't say why he did that. I don't know if you remember or not, but back from End Times Cain, there was this thing between Marathi and Tyrion.
Sure, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, she's probably still around and probably working for the big Dark Prince. Yeah.
It's just saying, like, the potential that's there story-wise, it could be interesting.
Absolutely. All right. So we know we like the models. Pretty much. And we're hopeful for the future. Pretty much. So let's talk the rules. That's next. The rules. Oh, boy. Now, normally I would never try to break down an entire rule thing in a single show, but the Age of Sigmar is nice enough to contain only 4 pages of rules. So, let's talk through it. I am going to screen share it up and just kind of have the rules up, where we don't need to go beat by beat. I literally don't want to read every word. People have seen it. It's out there. But I will bring some of it up so that way we can take a look. All right. So, let me get some screen share. Super exciting when I have to mess with this. All right, screen share. Here we go. Again, everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
I'll take your silence as yes. All right, good. Okay, so why don't we just jump right in and start with the biggest controversy? I don't see why not. Let's just lead with the grenade, which is the army selection thing, right? So first off, we know we can use any model. We're going to get war scrolls, which are just the data sheets we just looked at for units. We know we're going to get that for every existing thing in 8th edition. So basically, we all already have massive armies for this new game, right? In fact, really massive armies, probably, if we all have 8th edition armies. And basically what that seems to say to me here is you get your armies together. They can be as big or small as you like, and the more you put in here, the more you're going to... the longer this game is going to take. And the method of selection of the army has caused some controversy, because when they released the War Scroll, the thing we didn't see on there was points, right? We are moving away from points as a method of choosing forces. So, Tom, why don't you walk us through real quick how I would pick forces and put them on the table as per these new rules.
Yeah, so basically what's going to happen is they say that you can bring your stuff to, after you've laid out the battlefield and everything. We're skipping right over that. What's going to happen is that a player is going to roll a dice, and they are going to place a unit at more than 12 inches from enemy territory. And they can do any number of models in that unit, assuming that, like, the unit in the battle scroll says it's an unlimited, there's no upper limit to the number of models. And almost all of the units say that.
And we've seen so far for the multi-person units, yes.
Yes. And so you lay this unit down of any number of models, and then your opponent then responds by laying a unit down of any number of models. And this alternates back and forth until one of the players says, "I'm done." And then the other player then can continue to lay as many units as it would like with models in their army. Now, who is flipping out right now? Because I know a lot of people, they hear that and they're like, that is terrifying. Because it means that I could have 800 blah, 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 blah. And do you want me to just go into my spiel?
Let's do it, man. Hit me with your best shot, as the bards would say.
I actually think that deployment is the new movement phase of what a movement phase in 8th edition was. I think deployment is that now, because the amount of tactics that's going to go into deployment is through the roof. And what I mean by that is this. Let's say or let me just say it this way. Yes, you can keep laying minis down until you've literally filled up your entire table. Absolutely. That is, and in a sense, it could be, like 30 models on 800 models or something just outlandish. Okay? But, funny story there. The rules for the sudden death victories are there in order to give the weaker model an instant win condition. And so what's going to happen now is that as they're alternating, one player can then say, I'm done. And what's going to happen on the other side of the table is that player can either choose to continue to lay up to however many models up to 30% more total than the other player does. And if they choose to go beyond that, I think it's 30%.
A third, yeah.
A third more, 33%. If they go beyond that, they're going to give the other player an instant win condition. And I think that you may be able to stop other players from deploying their full allotment of what they wanted. And so people are going to have to think on the fly as they're deploying what is best going to be used to combat the other person.
Yep.
And when is this
what you just put on the table? How many models did it have, right?
Right. Yes. What is the right thing to either counter that, or because you don't know when they're going to end. And so, we've become so accustomed to building these lists and coming to a game with a set list, this net list, or this super great combination where only maybe a third of the units in your entire army are actually ever being used because everybody's using the same overpowered stuff. That's good, but you don't that may not be optimal for any situation. And now you're actually, when you come to the table, you're laying down what's most optimal to combat the enemy.
Yep. Yeah, because you don't want to accidentally find yourself getting a sudden death situation against you. It's funny because it sets up all sorts of cross incentives, right? As to when do you stop, what do you put down first, what do you put down based on what they put down, can you catch them in a sudden death, right? Because clearly if you can, that seems pretty good. If, all else being equal, you would love to be able to have that as one of your options, right?
Right, and even if you have these huge units of the big X factor here is going to be range attacks, and I don't know how that's going to I don't know what tools are going to be to mitigate the strength of blocks of 100 archers, but the reality is that for melee units, everybody has a reach, a ranged attack radius of an inch or 2 inches. And you can only get so many enemy models around you within a 1 inch of your unit. There is a physical limit, and it's not 100.
Right.
And not all of their unit gets to attack. It's those within their reach.
Now, and in addition to that, let's assume, here's the next point I would make. Let's assume that that these things are wide open in this way. And I think this is going to segue into something else you want to talk about, which is scenarios, right? We don't know. We know there are scenarios because they say in in this text somewhere that has been released, it says we're going to be giving you a bunch of scenarios and stuff. So that's coming some way somehow. There are more books coming that's directly in this text. There are more War Scrolls coming that's directly in this text. I mean, duh, there are going to be a ton of releases, and there's going to be all sorts of scenarios. And we don't know what the scenario rules look like. I would love to see it where the scenario defines a lot of how much you put down and what's good and stuff like that. At the same time, it'd be completely easy in a tournament setting or even your friendly game setting to say, let's use only the war formations, which we'll talk about later, war bands or whatever, and we'll set the maximum model count at 100 or whatever, or X number of wounds, I should say. Right,
yeah.
Would be the
in any unit, 30 wounds is the maximum wounds in any one unit, or something like that.
Yeah, And like that's 2 sentences of text to quote unquote comp that, right? We don't even know if that's necessary, but that would be all it would be to fix that. And by the way, let's all remember we're coming out of 8th edition, where there are many people who said on their videos, and if you're one of these people who said it, don't forget you said it, and you probably watched somebody say it, maybe you said something like it. People said, you know, I won't even play uncomped Warhammer. Because and so it's not like we're coming out of like, I think Warhammer 8th edition was fantastic. I think it was a golden age, but let's not pretend like it's perfect. Most major tournaments had big compacts or used crazy things like, you know, like Swedish or something to bring things back in line. So it wasn't like the game was just, you know, a perfectly tuned machine previous to this moment, and all of a sudden we just jumped the rails. But yes, I think all that's true. And I think scenarios I think those, with just a combination of those few features, all of a sudden, what are we even talking about to me? All right.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're talking about competitive play, let me just jump in real quick. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but there's like a triumph table also in the rules that actually takes into account your last, like who won the last battle and what benefit they get. Right. And I actually suspect if this is like, if these games are really like, I don't think these games are supposed to be big 4-hour deals. I think these are supposed to be fast and furious and brutal. And so what I actually anticipate we're probably going to be seeing is in a tournament environment, if you can knock out a game in an hour, what we may be looking at is it'll be a best of 3 matchup where both people deploy and then suddenly like another person just gets brutalized, game's over in 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And then another round of deployment as people jockey for position and strategy and all that. And then another game, you know, and then these triumphs will carry over. So like I really think that this is a different game. We need to not have the same expectations coming to it. And I think that the whole setup is a huge, huge change. And I think that it's bigger than what people are attributing to it. Yes, there will be matches where you are staring down 3 times your number of models. That will happen sometimes.
But that's true now. But like, bring a rugby team Warriors of Chaos army against Skaven or Goblins or anything like that. You're staring down 10 times your number of models.
Right, and now you have a new victory condition. Something that you get to choose that's optimum for fighting that fight.
Yeah.
Your goal isn't to kill them; it's to survive and to just complete a single condition.
All right, Will. I know you had some concerns over points. What's your let's see, you know, like, and just sort of this. Obviously, this is an area of consternation for the whole community. So talk to me. Have we allayed some of your fears with this discussion?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I want to first say that I'm empathetic to everybody who is critical of this new system, but I won't lie, since getting on the show, Tom's argument is winning me over. And I'll tell you why. And I know you never want to mix this with anything, but it has to do with my politics, where he's starting to win me over. I'm all but an anarchist, and this game, the way they're setting this up is really, it's like a microcosm of what I think the world is in reality. Like, we get to see limited resources and how we as individuals decide to use them and bring them to other individuals and engage in freedoms of association and deal with these problems without a centrally governed body. And so, based on what he's saying here, it's starting to really win me over. And I'm really excited about it, actually. But I do think that the one thing that we're overlooking is that I don't think the game is very well play tested, which is fine, and that you're going to come up with issues, not with like 10 bloodthirsters versus whatever you decide to bring. Like, I'm going to bring a fluffy army list, and then my opponent's like, oh, well, I can bring 10 bloodthirsters than I can. My fears are more along the lines of what I saw in 40K today, which was a Super Friends list. You know, units that are just so good at everything that they don't necessarily push the limits of bringing too many models or too many of this. They just kind of can do anything. And then you don't have to bring so much. You can bring like a small force that can just do everything very well, and there's not really much you can do with it. Like, people just break the game open. They find out what's the perfect synergies, and then then you're afraid that everybody's going to play the same thing, and the game's going to get monotonous.
Yeah.
But that's a problem even under a controlled system. So I'm really buying into Tom's argument of, just you have the freedom to do whatever you want, so you're not actually subjugated to a system forcing you to play in a certain way, so you don't actually have to bring the Super Friends list because you have the freedom not to.
Right. So, literally back to back in 2 or 3 games in a tournament, you could be utilizing completely different sized armies with different forces and different models on the table.
Yeah, that's the amazing part, actually, that the army-less construction is thrown out the window because you can just change it up on the fly.
Yeah, and it actually mimics a real aspect of, like, mass warfare. Like, you don't always have control of where the engagements are at and what is brought to bear in those engagements. Sure. Like, there's a degree of, they're touching at something that was completely fabricated in prior editions, which is, this is my army list, and this is what I'm always coming to the table with, no matter what.
Yeah. Let me answer a comment real quick. So Mitt had asked a question. He said, so Matiram said, here's my question on the sudden death thing. If I give you an instant win if I go over 33% more models than you, why would I ever put down less than, like, why would I ever do that, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
So why would I not just go to 32% or whatever? That's a great question.
Yeah, and that's probably what you should do.
Right.
Like tactically, yes, that's probably what you should do. But that whatever that 32% is may still be less than what you need to fill out your battle scroll formation. So this goes back to those formations that we were talking about. Okay, so in those formations, there's a list of like 1 unit of this, 2 units of this, 1 unit of this, yada yada. What that could act like, you could run into a situation where you can't get the right models you need down to be effective.
Right.
To activate your whole formation to get all of your bonuses. And so what ends up happening is that you end up having an unbound list. And if rumors are to be correct, unbound lists may not actually be able to hold terrain or portions of the board or stuff like that to accumulate victory points. We don't know what the full story is on that, but that's a possibility. And if that could be a really big deal to stop people from being able to lay out their units.
Yeah, let me take it a step further. You set down your first unit. I've heard people talk about, I'll just bring 500 archers. Whatever, fine, I don't care. You have a bunch of archers. You set that 1 unit down. Okay, I am going to definitely sudden death you. Because there's no way I'm going to ever, you're going to out 33% me forever. Right? So, there is a tactic where you just say, I'm going to try to go big and put myself into the case where I get sudden death every round, but I'm going to try to fight through it. Right, which is like the ultimate horde army. So like my first drop is 100 things, and it's the flip side of that is you get caught where you only have units left that would put you into sudden death situation, and you weren't planning on it, but the other person sets down their troop, looks at what you've got on the table, and goes, done. I have no more to place. And your choice is either stop now, or any unit you've still got, you're going to put yourself into sudden death because of whatever the size is.
And to add to that, like, you're also going to be able to, like, it's not exactly like that, Vince, because you're going to be able to, like, change the numbers of models in a unit as you're setting it down.
Yeah. I mean, and the number example was only when you already did it. Like, you started, your first place was 100 archers. That's committed.
Yeah.
That's how I'm saying you force yourself into auto sudden death. Previously, you put them to where they can't put down something. You have a small model count. They put down something. You say, whatever. You're at a close number. They just don't have anything else they can put down. You see what I'm saying? That actually hits that.
Yeah. This is what I want to say about that problem is there's like 3 aspects of gaming that I see going forward. You have your gaming with your friends, your gaming in the competitive scene, and then you have your gaming with strangers, which are your pickup games. Now, with your gaming with your friends, that's already, and I'm sorry if I make this too heavy because it is a little political almost, but if you're gaming with your friends, you're already engaging in associations where you're already familiar with. So you guys already have a dialogue and understanding and a way, a mindset of how you're going to play games. So you don't have to worry about that escalating problem that Mitt's bringing up. Or not Mitt. Is it Mitt or is it MC1 Gamer?
Michiran brought up the question of the second deck.
So MC1 Gamer. So you don't have to worry that because you guys already have an agreement that you can work about. That it's either not going to be a problem because you guys agree it's not a problem, or you're going to have setting rules that's going to solve that problem. When it comes to tournaments, that is a great example of groups of people deciding to get together and agree to play in a certain way. So I don't think that's going to be an issue for tournament play, because I'm sure the tournament organizers, the people who run ETC, are going to have a very extensive rule set for this rule set. The problem I was having was your pickup games. Like, without some sort of strong structure, it's hard to, in my mind at first, before I thought about it, for strangers to engage in something without that problem making itself evident. And I think that problem that he's talking about will be an issue early on. But if you're the type of person that's going to play like that every time against, your local scene that you're going to come into every day against acquaintances, you're going to find yourself not playing people eventually, because that's kind of a dick thing to do every game. So I think it's going to work itself out. Like if your idea of coming to every game is to just weasel your way into an advantage every time and just not relax and just bring a balanced army, then I think you're going to lose out on players, because or you're going to find other people that are like you, and you're going to develop a friendship with those people, and you guys are going to have a great community that way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I do absolutely, and I think it's no different than the current scenario, right? Of course people bring fluffy armies now and have fun, and we all manage to find a way to do it. We know that there are comp 20 armies and comp -8 armies, but somehow we manage to make it work, right? It's not like the game is super balanced as it exists, but somehow we all get together and play and have a good time through a mix of being friends. And with pickup games, when you're at a store and you say, you want to get a game on, what list do you run it? Or what type of army you running? You got oh yeah, I've got a pretty soft VC list with me. How's that work for you? Yeah, sure, that's fine. I got something pretty soft. And yeah, sometimes you'll have a bad experience, but that's fine. Moreover, I think that the war formations, like the warband sheets, are really go a long way toward being able to help you. Which I don't think I have one of the warband sheets in here, do I?
Oh yeah,
Nope.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. If that
I can email that to you. Do you remember, William? Do you remember the Archeon book? Do you remember the formations from the Archeon?
You were cutting out. I didn't quite get that.
Okay. Do you remember the formations from Archeon? So it was take you're the fire host. So you had Haradrim, and then you had a group of swordmasters and a group of white lions and a group of executioners and yada. And it was this list, but it didn't dictate how many of each unit. It was and then it gave you 2 special abilities for your entire army. There are those. Yes, there are those identical things for the 2 armies in the box set.
Oh well, then that's perfect. That's a great. So yeah. Okay. So I'm starting to get really on board with this. Yeah, especially from here. I haven't even thought about when Tom was bringing his point up about deployment. Yeah, I'm now excited. I've changed my mind. I'm sorry to all the people who are naturally negative. I was on your side. I still support you and feel empathetic towards you, but I'm actually now getting excited.
All right, we got one. All right, there you go.
Well, let me just say this. This is a different game.
Yeah.
This is not Warhammer. And if you want to be negative, more power to you. I mean, if this, honestly, if this is not the game you want to play, then this is not the game you want to play, and there's not a problem with that. 8th still exists. Kings of War still exists. But what I want to say is that, I want us to be careful about, all the, comments that are being thrown around. Yeah, Vince just put up the warband shot.
There you go. If you can see that, there's the actual warband. So that's exactly what you're saying. You can see a Gore Blade warband consists of the following. There's the units and bonuses they get.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm glad they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Also, that big demon in the back looks amazing.
Yes, he does. I mean, this is what I would say is that just simply like if this is not your game, cool. Then this is not your game. And luckily, you didn't have to pay anything to figure out that this is not your game.
Right.
You can try it out with all of your stuff for free, and then it's and I don't know if this is my game. Like honestly, I'm gonna probably try it. I'm not even sold, even though that like I'm talking up the deployment phase. I'm just talking up the tactical aspect of this. This is not a super, like, this is not the game that everybody is making the claims that it is. This is not just playing with toy soldiers, and this is, loose. There are a lot of tactics here, especially in deployment, that people just aren't thinking about yet. That said, again, I'm not sure if this is even my game.
I mean, this is definitely not my game, but my game was 8th edition. I was playing games just because I wanted to play games previously, and I just dealt with it. It was just enough for me to have fun. 8th edition came along, and finally all my preferences were met. It's going to go away, so we return to what it was like beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of this is that it is a big change, and we don't know what the quality of the change is yet. So I would just reiterate the same thing I said in my video from last night, which is like, it's okay if this isn't a game for you. Just stay positive in the community. If you're gonna, there's no need to directly tear down people who have a differing opinion from you. There's gonna be a lot of time here where we get to see a lot of releases, form a lot of opinions. Let's just take it as it comes, right? But yeah, here you go. So here's the warband thing. Very cool stuff. I think that's neat. I love this idea, because this is like a page and a fluffy army immediately, and they could knock out 1,000 of these, and please do that. Okay. So, here we go, back to that. So, let's talk about some other stuff. We talked about I want to get off the army choosing controversy. I think we've covered that heavily. So there you go, army choosing controversy. We've presented some counterpoints, think of it what you will, and let's just end that with this final note. We still don't have the game and have no idea if what we're talking about is BS, right? Like, that is the reality.
There's
there's lots of other possibilities. So
yeah, there's another rumor that's out there right now. It's most likely not true, but there's another rumor out there right now that there will be points values. And that GW is launching a website that has a subscription that you subscribe to it, that it has all the point values so that you can play a balanced game by and it has an army builder and yada yada yada. Again, likely not true, but that would be one solution, and actually that would make up for the fact that they've given away all the rules, and that all of the old guard actually don't have to buy anything to play this game. If they did that, that would actually, that financially, that makes actually more sense to me than what they're doing right now. That said, if they keep making awesome models, then it's not going to matter.
All right, so let's move on to some other aspects of the rules. Let's talk about some quick hits, shall we? To hit, to wound. How do you hit? You got a number. You roll higher than that, right? Or something. It's 3 up, 4 up, whatever. There's no comparisons. They cut the comparisons. Same with wounding. Damage more or less works the same. Like you do wounds and models get removed. It's pretty standard stuff. Armor save, since there's no strength and stuff anymore, it's just determined by your rend value. You still got to move. You go somewhere. If you fly, you can still fly. There's no marching anymore. You just run. And running adds an extra d6 to your movement, so running becomes a variable distance. Most everything else is kind of, and then obviously there's bravery, which is sort of your leadership, and when you lose combat at the end, you take a bravery test, and you bleed off additional models rather than breaking completely, though obviously it could just blow your unit away, right? That could certainly happen. So what we have here is a much more gamist construct, right? The old game was still writing some amount of simulationism of the strength to toughness comparison and this kind of stuff, whereas now we're getting into a quicker, more expedited gamist construct. Neither of those are better or worse than the other. Let's just start there. So anybody who wants to make an argument about it's not realistic or anything like this, please stop. I do not want that. That is not a legitimate argument, and here's why. Because we're just making crap up. This is rolling dice. This isn't swinging swords at each other. It is always an abstraction. The question is just how much. Now, if you don't like it, if you don't like that level of abstraction, that's legitimate. But I've seen great games that are 100% gamist and have, are just complete abstractions of the reality they're trying to mimic. And I have seen great simulationist games that are like super gritty, detailed, down to the thing. That alone does not define the quality of a game. It's level of simulationism. It might define how much you like it, and that's cool. No, that's no problem. But the game itself can still be well designed. Whether this is, hey, that's a different subject we're going to have to figure out. But it's definitely more gamist. So, Will, what are your thoughts on these rules changes? Where are you sitting with this, buddy?
All right, well, I hated it immediately. I think that's my reaction to changes, hate it. I don't like it. But I think it is a superior, and this is why it breaks that limit of 10 that was stuck in the old version of the game. You know, all your stats would never exceed 10. I think in this version of the game, things can start breaking the 10 limit. Or everything's not defined by that 1 through 10 limit, so I like that. So I'm assuming wounds are going to go really high. I mean, maybe I would like to see upwards to 30 wounds for some models. I think that would be kind of cool. Like the Glotkin, I think that's something that should probably have about 30 wounds. You know, 5 for each of those small characters, and then like 10 or 20 for that giant monster that they're riding on.
Especially if wounds becomes a limiting factor to army construction, right? Then you would be just like roaming the Glotkin around as a whole army fights him, which would be pretty hilarious.
I like the idea. At first, I didn't like the idea, but now I do like the idea of just getting rid of initiative and it just being based on what you're doing in your turn. I think that's really cool. There's just so many different things about it I love. The bravery aspect is really great. I like how if you fail the bravery test, you start losing models, simulating people running away. That means there's going to be, because I mean, leaderships as it stands now, there's not a lot of time. It's either like most of the game, it doesn't matter. You're probably going to pass it, and then when you do fail it, it's like game ending. So it's very, there's not a lot of in between.
Yeah, it has a very binomial result in the current game. Because most of the time you're just steadfast, whatever, blah, you just drop it, you don't even care. I'm rerollable 9 or 10.
And that's going to be a problem. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, with this new characteristic, you know, there's always going to be something happening, I'm assuming.
Right. Yep.
And that the fleeing is going to be a problem for elite units, because it's the number of characters that flee, not the number of wounds that flee.
Interesting.
So so on those bravery tests, that's going to cost a lot more when you have 2 and 3 wound models bleeding off the back of your unit.
Sure. Yeah, if one of those big Sigmar, and that's also interesting because that Sigmar army has like one of their Lord's special abilities that like he can basically make one of them immune to the losses, one unit like immune to the losses of bravery or whatever, and you know he sort of makes them quasi unbreakable, and that leads into I agree. I think here's why I like this road. And by the way, when people say they disagree on this, like this kind of thing, I totally get it. It's the same as what you said, Will. Like, I'm not gonna. This isn't me saying you're wrong. Please don't take it like that. I have the utmost respect for everyone who this isn't their cup of tea. But as a game designer, this is like so fantastic to me. When you design a game, there are 2 roads you can go down. Okay. And the first, because we're trying to mimic complex things here when we design games. That's true for all these war games and RPGs and everything. And the first thing you can do to try to mimic a complex situation is make a complex game. You can try to be very simulationist and mimic everything down to granular detail. The problem with that is that then you've done that, and you can't. There's nowhere to go. You can't go up from there without just an explosion of complexity that makes the game almost untenable. Because there is some limit to how much simulationism you can do. I can't actually do the math. I can throw you a tennis ball, but I could not chart that math to have you catch it. It's super as heck for me to throw it at you, but I could not explain to you the sine, cosine, force, and all this garbage going on. So there's just some limit. And the other thing you can do is start from a very simple base and allow a lot of complex interactions. chess is a classic example of this. Chess is a very simple game. Othello is a very simple game, right? But they have very complex hidden interactions. Magic the Gathering is a very simple game. I can teach you to play Magic in 5 minutes. Come to my house. I'll play Magic with you. It's 5 minutes to teach you how to play that game. It will take you years to get amazing at it if you really work at it. And even then, you'll probably never be at the level of like the truly greatest people in the world. Maybe you will. Maybe you're the exception. I don't know. Maybe you're just the best Pro Tour player in waiting. But the point being is that simplicity of the base rules allow for expansions of complexity and complex interactions. And you can't do all those complex interactions without becoming too weighty and impossible for new people to learn and turning off a lot of your base if you don't start somewhere simple. This is starting somewhere simple. That's what appeals to me.
I want to go back to the system that exists now with where it's kind of, everything's built on the number 10. Since they just took that scale away, I mean, they have lots of opportunities to just change things up to the extreme. Like I noticed, so I didn't like the hits being set, but when you look at the chart now, it isn't a lot of variation. Like, sure, your Grot, when he attacks the assassin, is going to need 5s, but that's not that much of a variation. Now, since nothing's set on stats, they can just make it harder for you to hit people. Like, they're not set to having to worry about keeping things under weapon skill 3 to make sure that when you fight something at weapon skill 10, it simulates that. So,
yeah, I mean, let's be realistic, right? For the majority of the time, the majority of units slam into each other in the game, they need either 3s or 4s to hit each other, right?
Yeah, right.
Barring special rules like Nurgle crap. And that is still going to be around. I mean, I will lay you money that when Nurgle or somebody comes out, somebody's going to have a special rule that gives the enemy -1 to hit. I know that because there's stuff that already gives people +1 to hit. So the second you've written that line, somebody somewhere is giving out -1, right? So like it doesn't. There still can be tons of movement to that number. We just cut out one comparison, right?
Right. And you no longer have to worry about the strength no longer dictates armor piercing. It's now whatever they want to make it. In addition, I don't know if they're going to do this, but saves no longer have to be 1+. They could go lower now if they wanted to, just to adjust the effects of minuses.
Go back to old like 4th and 5th edition where you could get a 0+.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
they're going to do that, but I mean, they're not banned. They're not like confined to a system now. They can do whatever they want.
Well, I'll also say this: it goes the other direction too. Here's why. Before, they needed all this 1-up armor running around because so many things were so strong.
Yeah.
Right? And so many things are like strength 5, strength 6, and just making 1-ups coin flip saves. But now, that Dracoth guy, that Lord Seledistonot, I don't know his name, the dude on the kitty cat, I mean, he has a rend of like -1. He's on a monster. His thing is probably like strength 7. People will have varying rends. I'm not saying there won't be guys with like tremendous -4 rends, because that's going to happen. There's going to be like some Slanesh thing or whatever, or a bow of a wood elf that just is like rend -10. Something. There will be like a -10 rend somewhere. Just they'll print a stupid number on it just for funny's sake.
Or something that just straight up negates armor saves.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is that, but that means that your 4-up armor or whatever is way more valuable in the span of the game, right? You don't need as many 1-ups. You don't need 1-ups running around everywhere because 4-up doesn't basically immediately go to T-shirt save, right? Like, because everything in the universe is strength 4 armor piercing or something like that. It means that you can have a lot more guys that are in the middle. Armor stays very valuable. It's valuable across the board. It's good to have. Yeah. And again, it elicits great tactical play because when there is that one unit that can do that, it's not like, you've got to think about how you move your troops and stuff like that. Those interactions are still there. They didn't get sapped out. They're still there. All right. Anything else we want to say about rules? We should spend a lot of time on that. But there's probably still a bunch more stuff in there. I mean, obviously, there's still, even with 4 pages, there's still plenty.
I had the mute on, but I wanted to mention I like the new randomness of each turn. Like, it's not my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. It could be my turn, your turn, your turn, my turn. I think that's really cool.
I love
Yep.
that. You have to make decisions without perfect knowledge. I am a
Yep.
huge fan of decisions under incomplete knowledge as a game design tool, and this
Well,
forces that.
not only that, you also got to realize that like the striking order, like we had kind of talked about previously, but it's your unit strikes, my unit strikes, your unit strikes, my unit. If you have a skirmish.
Yeah, let's go back to that. That actually is a huge thing I want to touch on. I'm so glad you said that. Me, as the person who's my turn, I get to pick the first unit that fights, and then you pick a unit that fights. But it's not the same unit. It doesn't have to be the same engagement, right? This, holy crap, if that doesn't blow your mind with some tactical capabilities, you're not thinking deeply enough about this. Like, that is amazing. That is so much more tactical and skill-based than just having initiative values, right? Because
Yep.
the fact that I have to choose these combats and choose what is fighting where, and remember, you can fight people within 3 inches of you, right? You're not locked into one combat. That's not how this works. It's just your unit's within 3 inches of this other unit. You charge this guy, but you're 3 inches of this guy. If you got people that are there, they can fight him. So the order you arrange those combats and cause those casualties and make this stuff happen, super important, right? Because if you make the wrong choices, the wrong order, let their characters with special abilities stay alive when you could have killed them, you're gonna have a bad day. That's pizzaing when you should have French fried, folks. Everybody knows that. No, you should don't pizza when you should French fry. All right. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Tom. Any other? Either of you from in your reading the rules? Anything else that jumped out at you that you wanted to hit on?
We have a lot of unknowns. Like,
Yes.
so, like, I know everybody's like, oh, we have all of our rules here. Well, kind of. Like, if you go back and look at the like first page of the rules, one of the comments that has slipped a lot of people's attention is the first thing you do is decide which of the realms that the battle's going to be taking place in. And it's, the example is, for example, you might decide that your battle will take place in the realm of fire. Sometimes you'll need to know that in order to use certain abilities. If you can't agree on the realm, roll a dice whenever the highest decides. Like, that could be huge, because we don't know what passive effects are going on in what realms. That could affect range combat or spellcasting or all of these other things.
Yeah. All these guys are every war scroll is you mentioned it earlier, William, are labeled with like 5 keywords, and we've seen not a huge amount of exploration with those keywords. You are out of your mind if you think that isn't going to be a huge deal. Like, I know what keywords do in game design. You put them on there because you plan to just use the crap out of them. That is why you label them with all these keywords, because that just gives you levers to pull later. Oh, don't do that. That's a bad hand motion. It just, there is so much we don't know. Completely agreed.
Let's move on to some fluff.
Let's talk about some fluff. Let's talk about fluff, man. All right. So, Tom, hit me with a high level. Actually, here, I'll share this.
Okay.
Go ahead and start talking, but I'm going to start sharing.
So it appears what we are far, far in the future. At some unnamed time long ago, a cataclysm happened, and a world was destroyed. That world obviously is what happened with the end times in the old world. And Sigmar basically gathered, found the core of the world, and basically rebuilt reality, I think, is basically what's going on. And so there's a number of ages, and one of them after that is like the Age of Peace, I think is what it mentions. And so Sigmar, the God King, basically, like, he's gathered up all of these souls that are that these other like gods. One is Gorka Morka, one is Nagash, one is Tyrion. And these other gods, they've all kind of like come together to face off against chaos, and it was this like time of peace and rebuilding, and then like the forces of destruction just wanted to fight, and so like Gorka Morka and somebody else just ran off and smashed things, and then you had like the Nagash was like, I like dead things, let's make everything dead, and then so like he broke off with his stuff in the realm of death. And then you still have like Tyrion and them in the realm of order, and now the fight is on, and Chaos then like breaks in the midst of their infighting, takes back all of the realms but Azir, and so now like Sigmar's taking the fight to him.
Yep. And here we've got the 4 factions. So Order, Chaos, Death, and Destruction. Neat little stories here about the various stuff that's in there. There's been a lot of people hemming and hawing over the names chosen for a lot of this stuff. That's not really a thing to me. Warhammer's full of dumb names. Again, there's a special character in the Imperial Guard called Sly Marvo. I feel like if you want really quality names, you shouldn't have been ever coming to Games Workshop in the first place. But hey, that's okay. Whatever.
The new Corn hero, Kill, Name, Kill guy.
Yes. Kill, maim, kill guy. Bloody blood, kill, death guy. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Like, we know what this is. You knew what this was. But I thought this was neat that there's like 4 forces, whereas classically there's really been 2. If you think back to the 8th edition book, you had forces of order, forces of destruction, and which was sort of the bad people, and then the 2 non-aligned, right? And now you've got these 4 different factions. I thought that was pretty neat. And there was just some neat pictures here about with like some ogres that were rebased for their army. Thought that was pretty cool. A little dark elf. There you go. There you go, Will. How about that?
You know what I really hope the new theme for Undeath is more towards Tomb Kings than it is towards vampire counts.
Oh, wouldn't that be a wonderful day? I think it'll be neither. I think Undead are going to get a completely new aesthetic. And all I can say is, as long as I get some sweet giant monsters, I'm in. Because I can still use all my old stuff, too.
You don't think the Mortarks are like a signal to what it's going to start looking like?
I think the Mortarks are what it'll start looking like, yeah. The Mortarks and the Morghast Arakai. Because those were both created directly by Nagash, who clearly had a hand in the new stuff. Right, so...
Yeah. I mean, I would expect we're going to see lots more of the ghosty spirits. Like, that's going to be a staple, I think, in the new forces. Like the swirly spirit stuff. Because
those are some everywhere. Warlocks back there. Look at those guys. They're all gray skinned. They need to probably get out in the sun a little bit. These guys. All right. What else do we want to like? Obviously, this is the highest level scratching of the fluff. But we have a limited amount of time, and we will have lots of time to talk about this. And this is also the thing we know the least about. But I'm pretty excited for it. I like the. We still got mention of our elves and our dwarves, even if they have silly names. I don't care. That's fine. I can still call them elves and dwarves because that's what they are. And Tom, what about this Seraphon, right? Reptilian warriors that appear out of nowhere.
I brought this up to Vince, and he was like, "Yeah, Seraphon, for the Lizardmen." I was like, "So, do you think that's related at all to Malekith's dragon, who is named Seraphon?"
Is that a coincidence? Is Malekith leading the Lizardmen now?
I mean, his dragon was killed in the final fight, so it's clearly not his dragon that's leading them. But I don't know. Or is it?
I got sucked into the magic hole of surviving through the apocalypse, just like everything else in that room did. So I don't know.
When it comes to the old... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Will.
I was just going to say, when it comes to the old world, I didn't really like the storyline, the high-level storyline until the end times. I like the individuals, like storylines, like for characters and things. So I'm glad that there's going to be a different storyline coming forward. I mean, the storyline was what it was. It was, the world's gonna die someday. We're waiting 30 years to tell you that.
Yes, that was always the story of Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they did keep telling us, "Hey, the world's gonna end and Chaos is gonna win. Hey, the world's gonna end, Chaos is gonna win." They just finally did it.
Right.
Yeah. And now they're out of that pigeonhole.
Yep. And Order can teleport in on a sweet, like, Sigmar lightning bolt. There's probably a guitar riff, AC/DC plays, and some giant hammers start cracking Chaos skulls. I'm all about it. Like, heck yeah.
Yeah, Vince, you called it out, I think, in the One End Times video, that, like, we see Sigmar starting to do this in Archaon.
Yes. Yeah, they totally Chekhov's gun the you can teleport with lightning ability. in Archaon in like Chapter 2 when Sigmar just out of nowhere, as Karl Franz decides to rip open a portal out of Averheim and like, oh, I guess lightning can do that now, so that's cool. Like that's a thing. Which, hey, fine with me. Whatever, it's magic. I didn't make the rules on magic.
Yeah, that's Back to the Future too.
Absolutely, yeah. We all know lightning allows you to move in time and space.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. All right. Anything else you want to say on the fluff there?
No.
It looks
Excited
great.
to see where it goes. Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. That's what I'll say. It's very different. It is a big change, but the old fluff is always still there, and you know, none of that got robbed from you, and there's still plenty of good stories and things like that in that world. So, there we go.
Hey, you know what's actually really cool? The old world, the old time, previous time, the old one's time, it's all like mystery and hearsay. Like now, the long time ago is something we've all experienced. Like we know what happened in the past. It's no longer mysterious. That's kind of a cool aspect of the game.
Though there's still going to be, I have a direct feeling there'll still be lots of unknowns, right? Like, and I think you're right. We're living in the age of like, of might. It's not like everything was better in the past anymore. You know what I mean? This is like the age of some mighty people ready to break some teeth. Just be knocking teeth out of faces. That's another Archaon thing. Everybody gets teeth punched out of their head in Archaon. Go read that again. There's like every single character gets teeth punched right out of their head. It's a really weird thing. All right. So we've got some questions. We don't have a lot of time left, but I want to give our viewers their due because people ask some great questions, and I want to make sure we cover all of them. All right. So Mitch had asked about list building and points, and I think we really covered the question to his first thing, which was how do we see it working out to balance with scenarios, deployment, victory conditions. And I think, Mitch, you covered it exactly. Like we hit on all of those as being balancing factors, right? And somewhere in that soup forms a complex set of decisions you have to make that make this game really tactical even at that level. And then, so here's an interesting question that Mitch raised that I want to touch on. He said, I'm not a fan of measuring from the model instead of the base. I'd have preferred where the base type still didn't matter, but you measure from the closest point on either base. Because of the issues of modeling for advantage and issues with long lances, tails, and blah, 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 he can see a lot of problems. Do you think this might be the first community comp widely agreeing that you measure from edge to edge of the base or from center of the model to center of the model?
It's a problem that's solved in every game just by talking to your opponent. So, I mean, it is a problem amongst strangers that don't communicate.
Right. Yeah, to me it just says we measure, let's just measure from, yeah, sure, edge of the base or center to center or whatever. It's fine.
I mean, if my opponent cares that much about it, then I'll just play the way they want to play. Like, it doesn't matter.
I know I am not going to model for advantage, so there you go. I will model for disadvantage every time.
I'm less concerned about where measurements are coming from, and the fact that actually smaller bases are probably going to be mathematically better than like the round 25 mil bases. Just simply because they're going to have a smaller footprint, so you'll have more models within the 1-inch range to attack. Like, so 20 mils are always going to be able to get, you're going to get more models in there.
Yeah, and I think the
legit problem for one-off games. This is a problem for tournament play, which I'm sure tournaments will set a rule for.
Right. I think the simple and obvious answer here is like use the base the thing comes with. Like that should kind of be the default. You don't have to do it every time. Like I can understand it's an art thing. But you know, I mean, use the base it comes with. I think that's a pretty general, safe rule, right? If we all kind of do that, seems reasonable. Crazy talk, I know, but hey, there you go. So yeah, I think that's fair. And then his final question: knowing what you know so far, will you test out the game, and how will you test it to get a proper idea of gameplay and level enjoyment and blah 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 blah? Yep, you bet your patukas, sir. I will be. Yeah, I'm gonna play the crap out of this game just like you are. I watched your video earlier today. Mitch, and yeah, you bet it, man. I'm gonna play it. I have access to every army in my house except Beastmen, and I have big armies for all that stuff. They're not all mine, but I keep our entire club's armies. So yeah, let's do this. It's all coming out on Friday. I might just try to book up, like, get every friend I've got over and just be like, look, this is what's happening all day. We're going to drill this. And how am I going to test it? In whatever the best way from the information we've got. And when new stuff comes out, I'm going to play that too. That's what I would say. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll play test it as long as there's people around me that want to play it. I don't know what the excitement is where I live, but as long as somebody wants to play it, I'll test it out.
For
Tom?
me, it's free, and so there's no reason not for me to give it a try, especially if it ends up being a fun game. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna roll some dice. I'm gonna put some figures on the table. It'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. EMC Donna asked a question and said, did we talk about the points thing? Yes, we did extensively. It's at about the 30-minute mark whenever you go back and watch this. How you got to this point, hopefully you're watching it live. Otherwise, it's going to be a weird comment. Teleport back in time. And no, it's just at about the 30-minute mark, probably. Yeah, we talk about it for about 20 minutes. So we definitely went into it. I think we have some good ideas. And Skeleton Flower had a really awesome comment that I like where he says, that I hadn't even thought of yet, which is, I wonder how bravery will work for undead. Oh, that's a neat idea. Like, what do they look like? Or demons, right? Same thing. The two forces that have classically been immune to psychology. Like, are they immune to bravery checks? Do they not crumble in the normal way, or maybe differently? Like, that could be some really crazy stuff. So there you go.
Or maybe they just make bravery checks, and they call it for on them demonic instability and crumble.
Could be, sure. Could be that. Yeah, might use the exact same rule. Entirely possible, Tom. You're right. Okay, so United Wargamer says, from what we've seen, do you feel that GW wants to try and make this game last, or do you feel that this is a short-term, like, money-making thing for them? They want to make this last, and this is a huge gamble for them. I'll tell you why. They did this at the beginning of their fiscal year. Cash grabs happen at the end of your fiscal year. They're doing it now because they're not sure how well it's going to do, because it is risky. But if they're going to really do 15 weeks of releases, if they did all this work, think of how many thousands of models they have to do. Think of how many. I've written 6 books and role-playing books, and that almost killed me. And those are just books. They're writing all these books. They're doing all this. I can't imagine how many millions of dollars they've spent on this. It's a lot. And you don't do that unless you want something to win. Rumor is they're going to be at Gen Con this year, that they're going to start showing up to cons, really doubling down on marketing and stuff. Yes, they want this to win. Absolutely.
Let me also just... Go ahead, William.
No, you go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, let me also just point out that this is the most lucrative business model that they've ever created. I know that sounds really silly for me to say that, but in order to have the best chance of deploying the right things when you need them, you need to have everything.
Have lots of all the things.
Yeah, you need to have, so if you need to double down and not go with a 20 block of Savage Orcs, but if you need a 60 block in this instance, you need to have 60 orcs sitting on your tray.
Right.
If you're going to need a catapult to deal with the situation in the deployment phase, you need to have a catapult in your box. This is going to create, this is the most lucrative setup they've ever done. And then on top of that, you also need to, if you want to have flexibility in army creation, you can bring any model from any army. They really want this to succeed.
What were you going to say, Will?
I already forgot because that was a really good point.
Sorry.
It's quite good. All right, no, that's okay. If you think of it, we'll come back. Skeleton Flower says, what's your opinion on the first new army that we get from AOS is, very reminiscent of Space Marines? I think that we kind of touched on that. I think it's the most obvious one because it is very different. It's their most popular line, making it an homage or reminiscent of that. means that you can have a built-in player base of people on 40K side trying it. Would it be the one I chose? No, I've never been a fan of Space Marines, and certainly they are reminiscent of that. But it's the one that's the right choice. Like if I was in the GW executive team, I would absolutely choose the same one. If I was Vince making the decision, the box set would be like Skaven versus Undead, Age of Sigmar 2, Rat Boogaloo, and it'd be amazing. But that's probably not what would sell.
Not because of any personal desire. My anticipation is that the next one we'll probably see is a good guy, and I'm guessing it'll probably be elves, because we got Skaven, we got Undead, we got a bunch of Khorne stuff in this last round of end times models in this last year, but we haven't really seen any good guy models, and I think that this is why. I think we're gonna get Sigmar. We'll probably get and then I think elves will be the next big chunk that we'll get.
Yes, and the last page of the White Dwarf that's coming out with everything in it has a bunch of Nurgle stuff, including one of the Magath Lords fighting some Dryads and Treemans all on the round. So could be that we see some Nurgle and some Wood Spirit stuff very soon, like maybe in the next issue. Huh? How about that? Who's excited about Tree People coming back and being awesome?
And then Fish People in a year.
Hey, whatever. Let's bring it on. We'll see you soon, Fish People. Yeah. What other new armies would you like to see? Well, clearly Fish People. There you go. So many, man. So many. Is my answer to that question. Like, whatever. On this platform, the sky is the limit.
Sanctioned Chaos Dwarves.
Yeah, we will see more forces, more units, more different aesthetics, more different armies than we ever could have on the old system. And if nothing else, that excites me. Because, man, this is just going to be... We are going to have an embarrassment of riches. In the truest sense of that word, right? Because they will be able to do so many more different armies on this platform. If making a new warband is as simple as one page, and that suddenly can rip a whole new force into existence through combinations of existing models, or a combination of existing models with one or two model releases, man, that's a great world to live in. And I think overall, that is what I am most excited for. If you ever loved anything fringy in the Warhammer world, you have a better chance of seeing it exist now than you ever would have had if we continued on the 8th edition paradigm. There was never going to be a Talea, Estalia, Kislev, Halfling, whatever army, but you could see armies that are echoes of all of that stuff very easily. All right, and then finally, we'll end on the most important question. Ice King asks, as an owner of a Yeti Kingdom army, he's interested to know what role do we think the Yetis will play in the Age of Sigmar. So, as our final question, I would like each of you to give a quick one-sentence description of what Yetis will be doing during the Age of Sigmar. William, you are on the spot as our guest. Your turn.
Penguin catapults? I don't know.
Love it. Yes, they are the creators of Penguin Catapults, a new war machine of the Beast Army. The enemy has to make a stupidity check as they all look at the adorable penguins in their little tuxedos flying at them if it hits. It's a single strength one hit. All right, Tom, Yetis.
They will be leading the charge from the Plane of Destruction through the Gates of Wrath into Nurgle's realm to freeze off the genital warts that the Nurgle army is spreading throughout the Sigmarite realm.
Wow, that's truly horrendous. Thank you for taking the show to such a god-awful place. That's fantastic. I think that, as we all know, the Yetis were wiped out, save for the one last Yeti, Yeti L, who crashed into the realm of Sigmar and has now been empowered as the Emperor's champion. He will be Super Yeti, and he will be truly a powerful leader of the sort of Justice League. Super Yeti and Batgrot and the Flash / an ogre guy who's really fast, whatever, and so on and so forth. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. that brings us to the end of our show. I know there's so much more to talk about, but don't worry. There's so many more weeks of releases and rumors and everything in the year. And we'll be back. And I'm sure that this situation will evolve quickly. Keep positive. Keep patient. Keep watching everybody's content. I love to hear everybody about this. Please leave all your comments, your thoughts below. I will endeavor to respond to every single one of them. Subscribe to William if you didn't already. What are you doing? Do it. Do it right now. As soon as you click off this video, you go subscribe to William. Other than that, any parting words, gentlemen?
Thanks for getting me excited.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Tom?
No, I got nothing.
Well, great. Solid end of the show, Tom. Way to go out on a high note.
I expended everything with that Yeti comment.
Sure.
I got nothing else.
See you next Wednesday.